You didn't click this by accident. Some quiet part of you, perhaps one you've been silencing for years, knows something isn't right, that your life, as it stands, wasn't fully chosen. It was inherited, shaped by expectations, quiet compromises, and the illusion of safety. Most people never confront this directly. They just drift, not in one dramatic moment, but slowly, across years. Every time you say yes when you meant no. Every time you wear a mask to avoid being misunderstood. Eventually, you look in the mirror and don't recognize who's looking back. Friedrich Nietzsche understood this silent collapse. He didn't speak from theory. He spoke from rupture. Beneath his fury was a deeper cry. If you don't wake up now, life will make the decision for you. The first hard truth most of us were trained to follow, not to think. From the earliest days, we're rewarded for obedience. Sit still, memorize, recite. We learn how to conform, not how to question. Schools don't ask, "What do you believe?" They ask, "Can you repeat what we've told you?" And so, we mistake compliance for intelligence and repetition for wisdom. Nietzsche warned that this was the slow death of the individual. Because once you outsource your thinking, you also outsource your life. And by the time most realize they've been playing a role they didn't audition for, the curtain's already fallen. Then comes the second revelation. People don't want the truth. They want comfort. They say they value honesty, but they recoil when it arrives. Because real truth isn't easy. It's cold, disruptive, and often humiliating. It shows us where we've lied to ourselves, where we've traded integrity for convenience. Most people would rather be soothed than awakened. They cling to beliefs that protect their worldview rather than expose it. Nietzsche wrote that sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. It's not malice, it's fear. But the truth remains indifferent to fear. It does not negotiate. Then there's pain. In modern life, we treat pain like a malfunction, something to suppress or medicate. But pain, as Nietzsche saw it, is the mirror that reveals who you are. To live is to suffer, he wrote. To survive is to find meaning in the suffering. The things that break you are not accidents. They are invitations. What you resist holds your deepest insight. What you numb festers. The pain you ignore returns, louder, sharper, more unforgiving, until one day it forces you to choose. Either face it and transform or keep running until you collapse. And still, the pressure of the crowd persists. That's the fourth truth. The masses offer something tempting. Certainty, identity, a ready-made place to belong. But the crowd doesn't seek truth. It seeks agreement. It doesn't encourage depth. It enforces simplicity. Madness is rare in individuals, Nietzsche said, but in groups, parties, nations, and epochs, it is the rule. The more people agree with you, the more you must ask yourself, am I being accepted or absorbed? Because the crowd will praise you for blending in, even as you vanish inside your own life. Most don't realize this until they've built their world on applause and find themselves applauded into emptiness. The fifth truth comes cloaked in politeness. Kindness, without strength behind it, becomes a signal, not of virtue, but of vulnerability. We're taught from childhood to be nice, agreeable, generous. But Nietzsche cautioned that blind kindness, untethered from self-respect, invites exploitation. The world is not gentle. It rewards discernment over passivity. A kind heart without a strong spine becomes a target, not a hero. The weak are always forced to lie, he wrote, not out of deceit, but out of survival. If you lack the strength to assert your needs, you suppress them. You become quiet when you should be loud, agreeable when you should dissent. And over time, your silence teaches others how to treat you, until all you're left with is regret for the boundaries you never enforced. Which brings us to the sixth truth. Discipline is not driven by motivation, but by self-respect. Motivation is a fleeting feeling. It comes and goes like weather. Nietzsche would scoff at our obsession with it. He believed the act of doing what matters, especially when you don't feel like it, is the essence of dignity. You don't brush your teeth because you're inspired. You do it because it's a reflection of your identity. In the same way, real discipline is not punishment. It's alignment. It's honoring your values even when your mood rebels. Most people fail not because they lack desire, but because they tie their actions to temporary emotion rather than enduring principle. As Viktor Frankl later echoed, when a person can't find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure. But pleasure fades. What remains is your capacity to act from integrity. The seventh truth cuts deeper. Not everyone wants you to grow. They may cheer for your progress, as long as it doesn't exceed their own. Once your growth threatens their comfort, their applause turns to silence. This is not about envy, it's about identity. People unconsciously assign roles to those around them. You're the funny one, the fixer, the passive one. The moment you change, you disrupt their narrative. Nietzsche understood that this isn't always malicious. It's structural. Your transformation becomes a mirror they didn't ask for. And so they withdraw, criticize, or sabotage. Because your courage confronts their complacency. The tragedy is this: by the time you realize the connection was conditional, you've already sacrificed your evolution to protect it. The eighth truth lies in the shadow. The parts of yourself you were told to hide. Your anger, your desire, your jealousy, your fear. Nietzsche, much like Carl Jung after him, believed that repressing these elements does not eliminate them. It weaponizes them. What you bury gains power in the dark. It shows up in your tone, your cravings, your self-sabotage. You wonder why you ruin moments of peace, why you lash out after success. It's not random. It's the ignored parts of you demanding recognition. Jung called this the shadow, but Nietzsche saw it first. Be careful, he wrote, lest in fighting monsters, you become one. That monster isn't always external. Sometimes it's the version of you that was silenced to survive. You can't destroy it. You must integrate it. Because a person who understands their darkness doesn't become dangerous, they become whole. And without that integration, most people spend their lives locked in a war against themselves, never realizing the enemy was not their shadow, but their refusal to meet it. The ninth truth pierces beneath the surface of social approval. You cannot think clearly while constantly trying to please everyone. People-pleasing disguises itself as kindness, but at its core, it's fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of being seen and disliked. Nietzsche recognized this as a subtle betrayal of the self. When you prioritize harmony over honesty, you begin to lose access to your inner voice. Every decision becomes fogged with second-guessing. Every sentence is edited for acceptance. And over time, you become a mirror for others' expectations instead of a reflection of your truth. The consequence, a life that appears stable but feels hollow. And when that hollowness grows, it's not because others failed to love you, it's because they never knew who you truly were. You trained them to love your performance. This illusion bleeds directly into the 10th truth. You can do everything right and still feel empty. Society gives you a checklist, graduate. Get a stable job. Find a partner. Stay polite. Follow the rules. You do it. You do it well. And one day, you realize you're deeply unfulfilled. Nietzsche called out this false promise long before it became modern epidemic. He saw that a life built on approval rather than authenticity leads not to joy, but to quiet despair. The world may celebrate your success, but inwardly, you're haunted by the feeling that none of it truly belongs to you. He who has a why to live, Nietzsche wrote, can bear almost any how. The inverse is also true. Without a why, even the best hows feel meaningless. And so, you reach that place, not of crisis, but of quiet ache, where you wonder if you've lived a life that was merely efficient, rather than true. The 11th truth deepens the wound. We've replaced meaning with attention. In a world obsessed with visibility, being seen has become more important than being known. Likes, shares, and praise give us a hit of validation, but they can't sustain us. Nietzsche would have recognized this hunger as dangerous, a thirst for admiration that masks a deeper starvation for substance. Attention is fast, easy, and addictive, but meaning, that's slow, that's sacred. Meaning asks you to build something that matters, even when no one is watching, to speak words that are true, even if they echo in silence. Most people don't realize this until the spotlight fades, until they've achieved what they once craved, and are left with nothing but a hollow echo. They become trapped in personas they can't escape, performing identities that no longer feel real, and behind the applause, they are quietly unknown even to themselves. This descent into performance is not always dramatic. It often begins with small compromises, the way you speak, the way you dress, the thoughts you don't share. Each moment chips away at your core, until you find yourself deeply embedded in a version of life that doesn't quite feel alive. Nietzsche wasn't warning you out of cynicism. He was offering a mirror, and what you see in that mirror determines everything that comes next. The 12th truth is the one we run from until we can't. Death is not the thief we fear. It is the mirror we avoid. We're taught to see mortality as an interruption, an end to be pushed back or ignored. But Nietzsche approached death differently. He saw it not as destruction, but as revelation. He posed a question that still rattles through the bones of those willing to hear it. If you had to live this life again and again for eternity, would you choose it? That question is not theoretical. It's diagnostic. It forces you to see your choices with brutal clarity. Every delay, every compromise, every loveless hour. It all becomes weightier under the shadow of eternity. Death doesn't take meaning from life. It forces you to confront what meaning you've actually made. And most don't ask until they're too close to the end. Only then realizing that what truly haunts isn't death itself, but the unlived life that preceded it. Then comes the final, most difficult truth. Freedom, the kind that matters, will cost you everything that isn't real. The titles, the approval, the relationships built on performance, the crutches of distraction. Nietzsche didn't believe in inherited freedom. He believed in earned liberation. And the price is high, because to become free, you must let go of every illusion that once kept you comfortable. That's why most people flirt with freedom, but never truly pursue it. They fear the loneliness that comes with truth. They fear the uncertainty that comes with self-definition. But Nietzsche was unwavering. Until you release what's false, you cannot hold what's real. Real freedom is not indulgence. It is alignment. It's standing alone, unmasked, and all. Unapologetic. It's the courage to say no, not to rebel, but to protect the integrity of your soul. And it is the willingness to lose what was never truly yours in order to gain what only truth can give. The cost of this awakening isn't theoretical. It will touch your friendships, your ambitions, your inner world. You'll mourn versions of yourself that were built to survive, but not to live. You'll disappoint people who only knew how to love your silence. And you'll stand in the quiet spaces that used to be filled with noise and face yourself fully. But then, something unexpected happens. In the ashes of everything you let go, you find something untouched by approval or fear. You find yourself not the curated version, not the version they wanted, but the one that was waiting underneath it all. You've just walked through 13 truths most people never face until it's far too late. These aren't theories, they're lived consequences. And Nietzsche didn't lay them out to frighten you. He laid them out to prepare you for the shedding, for the solitude, for the beginning. Because in truth, every one of these realizations is a doorway. You can ignore it and continue drifting, or you can step through and begin a life that is finally yours. Not perfect, not painless, but real. So now the mirror turns to you. Which of these truths unsettled you the most? Which one are you still trying to deny? Leave it below. Not for validation, but for clarity. This is a space for those who refuse to sleepwalk through life. If this stirred something inside you, stay. We are building more than a channel. We are building a place where thinking deeply isn't weird and where telling the truth is survival.